I'm your host, Matt Talk Sports, and today we will be predicting UFL Week 2 games. And let me start off with this. So the UFL is basically a mixture of the USFL and the XFL combined into one huge spring league, and it was pretty fun to watch in Week 1. So, I recommend you watch Week 2. Now, let's begin with this first game. You have the San Antonio Brahmas taking on the Memphis Showboats. Both of these teams winning in Week 1. The Brahmas really showing out in Week 1, beating the previous 9-1 DC Defenders, and I have to say this Brahmas team is looking good, holding the Defenders to only 4 field goals, which I think is impressive considering last season that team went 9-1. And the Showboats, they dominated the stat line, but other than that, it was a really close game against the Roughnecks. If the Roughnecks didn't fumble that punt, then I think the Roughnecks could have definitely tied it up or have definitely won that game. And so just taking a look at everything at both of the teams, the talent, I'm taking the Brahmas going 2-0. Starting the season hot, and it's Showboats going 1-1. It's alright because you get a shot next week. Alright, next up we have our Saturday night game, which will be played on ABC. You have the Arlington Renegades taking on the St. Louis Battlehawks, and I was pretty surprised at the outcome for both of these teams last week because the Arlington Renegades, they were the USFL champions last year, and they just didn't look like a championship team because they only scored 14 points. They let the Stallions kind of just run all over them. Obviously, there was this huge play that set up the Stallions basically for the whole game. And then you have the Battlehawks, and the Battlehawks came back for a second. They went for a 1-point conversion. They got it. And the defense, I'd say, held on pretty good. But that kicker, man, the Michigan Panthers kicker is a beast. 64-yarder. That's ties up the longest field goal in the NFL too, 64 yards in the same stadium in Ford Field. And this game's a toss-up, but I have the Battlehawks coming out on top. The reason being is that they kept the game against the Panthers close. Unlike the Renegades did not keep that game close. So you can see the Battlehawks going 1-1. Moving on, you have your doubleheader on Sunday. And beginning your beautiful Sunday, you have the Birmingham Stallions taking on the Michigan Panthers. Panthers fortunate to start home again in Ford Field. Both of these teams had astonishing victories. The Panthers had a close game. Like I said, the kicker's a beast. They won that game 64-yard field goal. And don't get me wrong, he had a second chance at that field goal. That's still impressive, even if he had a second chance. The Stallions winning a beautiful game, 27-14 against the Renegades. They just looked good that whole game. And both of these teams, I can tell, are competitive and hungry for a championship. As all of these teams are. But you can tell with these two teams, this one is a toss-up like the last game. And I'm going to be taking the Michigan Panthers. I think that home field advantage will be helpful. I just think they have a talented roster. I think they'll keep things close with the Stallions, but I think they'll ultimately come out on top. This will be a really good game. You will be able to see this game on ESPN. And at last, we have our final game, which will be played on Fox. You have the Houston Roughnecks traveling to play the DC Defenders at 3 p.m. Now, both of these teams kind of shocked me, more so the Defenders losing last week, because the Defenders, they went full-on conservative. I think if they went a little bit more aggressive, I think they definitely could have won that game. And that game was close. That game was close to the end. Obviously, the Brahmas just shut it down with that almost pick six and getting the last touchdown. But that was a close game. In my book, it was a really good game. The Defenders just couldn't pull it off. The Roughnecks had a rough game. And I think this game, like all the others, I think I've said, will definitely be competitive. I think the DC Defenders will come on top, though. I just think they have a talented roster. If they do not go conservative, of course, they need to be a bit more aggressive, and I think that they will win this game. And so, in the end, I have San Antonio Brahmas winning, I have the Battlehawks winning, I have the Michigan Panthers winning, and I have the DC Defenders winning all of their games. If you guys enjoyed my predictions, please like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed. So close to 100 subscribers, so please subscribe, and peace.